Hi, Rachel. Thank you for being here with me today. It's such a pleasure.
Oh, hi, Sheryl. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you. So, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Oh, gosh. Well, I grew up on a farm in Tennessee. But after growing up there in a very rural area, I went to University of Georgia and then went on to live in Europe and New York and Los Angeles, and finally made my way back to Tennessee in 2008. So I've been here ever since, kind of painting probably what inspires me most, which is nature based.
Yes. And that's what I notice most about your work is just how much you capture the beauty and feeling and just so much um, about nature through your art. And your colors are so vibrant, like the greens that pop out, and you feel it, and it's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
Was there anyone that inspired you growing up?
I would say probably the people that inspired me the most would be the women in my life. I would think my mother, she was also a painter. She was not a professional painter. She was a housewife, but she painted all the time and took workshops and things like that. And she was also a writer. She wrote speeches, and I think she had 6 kids and I was the
Wow.
youngest of 6. So had she had that opportunity, I think, to work, she was brilliant. And she was a really great writer and painter and just very motivated, very spiritual. She was the deacon in the church when women weren't deacons. And
Wow.
um, she was just an amazing woman. And then also some great aunts who were born in the late 1800s. And neither one ever married, these 2 aunts, great aunts of mine. And they too they worked, they had great lives. And I always looked at them and thought, oh, okay, you can be a woman and have a hugely successful, happy life. And choose a different path. And in the South, growing up in the South, that's often not even a consideration. It's
Mm,
go to college to get your MRS degree,
yeah.
and so there's still, I don't know if that mentality is still there, but it sure was when I was growing up. So,
Right.
um, and then female painters as well. I adore Mary Cassatt, for example, just as an impressionist
Yeah.
um, and what she did. But there are just a lot of great artists and people that inspired me. But growing up on a farm, I think probably the third parent to me, so to speak, would be the land. And it was so healing and soothing and a great teacher. And I was just very much inspired by what was around me in that way, the seasons and just everything that was growing. We gardened a lot. We ate we had cattle, we ate the cattle, we grew the vegetables, everything was from this farm. And it was just quite nurturing. And I got a lot out of that. So
I love that. And I first noticed you on Saturday Night Live art shows, which is a platform that was created by artist Brooke Harker
mhm.
for other artists to share their work online. Excuse me. And so I saw one scene where you were painting in this brook, and it was just so soothing and calming. Um, and I remember, again, like those vibrant greens in the painting. Tell us more about how nature has inspired your work.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. That was amazing. I just hats off to Brooke and you and everybody who was organizing that, because it was really, really cool, especially during COVID, to have a chance to say hello to a lot of other artists and to see what they were doing and see their studios. So inspiring. So I thought, well, since I'm painting outside all the time, I might as well just bring the camera down there. So that's what I did. But I do a lot of plein air painting, which means painting outdoors. and I'll do sometimes the entire painting outside in a session, or in that case, that was a really large piece I was doing. I set it on an easel, literally in the creek, and painted, and just having the water rushing around you and the birds singing. It's pretty idyllic. And then took it back in the studio to finish. But let's see, you're asking about why I want to paint in nature, or
Yeah, like how has that inspired you? What, yeah, how did that start for you?
Well, I lived I guess about 24 years in Los Angeles. So during that time, I did not paint out of doors. So this has just been really since moving back to Tennessee in 2008. I painted my whole life, and I was an art major in school and all of that. But painting out of doors just became a thing here because I was just, like I said, very, very inspired by nature, and it's also very healing. I've had some issues in my life, physical issues and things that have brought me to a place of realizing I needed to find a lot of peace around me and take time to balance my life in a way. And I just find being outside really helps with that. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And I always noticed your posts and how encouraging they are. Have you ever had moments you want to give up as an artist,
Oh,
or would feel discouraged?
all the time. All the time. I keep that resume application for McDonald's sitting on my desk, ready to go whenever I have a bad day. No, but I mean, gosh, right after school, after art school, I was so, all those critiques, and you're just so, at least I was very tense after 4 years of that. And I went to New York and I worked for a really successful illustrator and artist. And he was very encouraging to me. And he would say, go get a portfolio, get your portfolio together. I will show it to people. And, I could not, nothing would come out of me. I would go home every night and stare at a blank canvas or a piece of paper, and just nothing would come out of me. And so this went on for a long time, and it was quite depressing. So I just kept working after school in art galleries in New York. I went to Christie's in London and studied for a year, fine and decorative arts. I thought, well, maybe I'm not meant to be an artist. I'm just meant to be someone who sells other people's art and admires it, things like that. Nothing wrong with that. And but I knew deep down I wanted to paint. I just was frozen. So then I started taking a class. Actually, it was a woman in Los Angeles. It was called the Creativity Center. And she would do things like have you paint blindfolded or with your non-dominant hand, or you would meditate first, and you would come up with something based on a meditation you saw in your head. And about half the class were people like me that had gone to art school and been professional artists or something. And then the other half were people that just never had an art class at all. They were just wanted to paint. Every time at the end of the class, we would put our work up on the wall, and the people who had no training were by far the best. Their work was unified. It was beautiful. It was emotional. Ours was all like uptight. You could see how like nervous we were, and like our, trying to please and all that sort of stuff that happens to some artists. And so so over time, I was able to just let go of a lot of things and a lot of barriers, and able to find my voice and find what I wanted to say, and then started loosening up and able to paint. So that was really a blessing.
Wow, I love what you just said there too, because I feel like a lot of creatives, artists come from that perfectionism mode. And when you do go to art school, and I didn't, but I took a lot of art classes in college, and when they critique your work, and it's a lot, and you just want it to be just right. What is just right? You
Yeah.
know?
And there isn't just right. There's never just right.
There's never just right. And, I teach as well. And when I watch my little students create, I am just in awe of what comes out of them. I'm like, most adults want to be like that.
Isn't
And
that
we
the truth?
lose it as we get older. A lot of us, I mean, many of us still keep that, just like the participants you were talking about. But I feel like, society and what we're told and how it should be, like it just narrows everything down.
Yeah.
And to be able to get out of that, that's the magic, to
Yeah,
just be able to create from the heart.
it's true. And it's funny you say that because I teach workshops. And the funny thing is, I don't know if it's because I've dealt with perfectionism my whole life, but I attract that all the time. And these women, highly capable, successful women, they're running top companies. They come in to take smart classes and they're like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to rock it. I'm going to be, painting a masterpiece within a week. And I'm like, maybe not. And so they come in and they're frustrated. It's very upsetting when you're good at everything and suddenly you can't grasp something that should be simple, right? Art, that's simple. But it takes some time. And so I understand them. And I really, I think if anything, when you detect that I'm encouraging people, I really love, and you know what I'm talking about, that magic of seeing a student open up and blossom and go, oh, I get it. And they
Yeah,
just release, and it's a beautiful thing. So
I agree.
it's worth the wait when it happens.
I agree. And it- I've seen it with one of my students, like the adult students. They will say, well, it's their first time in class. And I'm like, well, why can't I do it like them? And I'm like, well, she's been here like she's worked with me several times. And
Yeah.
she was also at your level. So give yourself, don't be so hard on yourself, and you
Right.
will get there as well. But it's just like, I think as women too, we beat ourselves up for not being that person that, we're just striving so hard to be, instead of just being in that moment and enjoying the process. And I had one student say, I'm not enjoying the process. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And then just guiding her through it. And in the end, she was happy with what she had, but yeah.
And sometimes that process, it is all about the process, which is about life, right?
About
Everything's
life.
about process.
Yeah.
But art especially. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you one funny thing. When I was in college, I was in a class. It was a figurative painting class. And so I had done this piece and I was so proud of myself. I was just hurting my, shoulder, patting myself on the back. I just thought this was the piece to give to my grandchildren and all this stuff. I loved it. And this teacher detected that in me. And he came up and he said, I want you to tear that up. And I said, what? What? My masterpiece? And
Wow.
and he said, yeah. And so I did. And he said, I want you to remember that we all have a deep well and you need to tap that, and just like, don't get too precious with your art. So I've always remembered that. And of course, so nothing is just keep producing. It's process. It's enjoying the process, not so much the outcome. And if there's a good outcome, sometimes great, but really hanging on to that process is what I've learned. But
Oh, I just love that. Just tearing. Yeah, I've heard there's an artist who, if people don't buy his work, he will burn it, and he will do it like on Instagram. Okay, this art is good. And there are people who are like, no, like, I'll buy it. Yeah, because we're like, no, how could you? It's like, I always talk about the Buddhist monks who, and that's why I do body painting, is because everything is so temporary. And I
mm,
think that's what body art is for me. Like, you make this beautiful creation and it's like, and you're making that person wipe it off. And it's so hard for them because they're like, I can't believe you spent all this time. And then I'm like, I know, but it's about being in that moment. And like these Buddhist monks make these beautiful, sand mandalas. Have you seen them?
Yes. And then they go away.
And I saw that once in a documentary, and I was like,
Mm,
no, what are they doing?
right. Because that's against our Western society way of thinking. You produce something and spend a lot of time to sell it,
Just
not
it.
preserve it.
But their intention was about the practice and being in the moment and putting the prayers in it. And I
Yeah.
just found that so beautiful. And I learned so much from that with my work. And passing that on to the person I'm working on. And
Right.
yeah, so I just love what your teacher did.
Yeah, I know it's true. And let me ask you this, like when you're painting, I believe that every painting you do is meant for one person. Now, that doesn't mean like it could be maybe they give it to their daughter one day and that could be the second person. But I mean, it's meant for one person to be attracted enough to take that painting home with them. And so whenever I paint, I don't know who that person is, but I kind of put a prayer into my work and I'm saying, focusing on, I hope this blesses that person. I hope this person enjoys this work forever. I hope this piece gives them joy, whatever it is. And I don't have a visual, but of the person, but sure enough, it could be 6 years later and someone walk in and say, I have to have that painting. I'm like,
Wow.
it's for you. You're the one I painted it for. And so it's really neat to put an intention into your work,
Yeah,
so
I
that
believe in that.
it's out there and then someone will be attracted to it, that intention, you hope.
I love that. I have not thought of that myself. And I think that's a beautiful prayer intention to put in to your work. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Has art healed you in any way?
Oh, yes, many, many times, many, many times. It's just something, some people get into art and they say, oh, it's so relaxing. And relaxing is a good word for healing too, in a lot of ways, because it just takes your mind off of your worries and gets you out of your head and into another place. So I'm sorry that my computer was dinging, and so I'm
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
down. But anyway, yeah, especially one point, a very dramatic point in my life, going through a divorce and being just miserable, so miserable that I developed a physical illness. I developed an illness called ulcerative colitis, and it's a terrible thing. It can go south really fast. And I was shocked. I was in my early 30s and found out I had this, and I thought, what? So I was living in Los Angeles and had to go through a lot. It's a long story, but a long time of doctors and things. And finally, I remember being in the hospital at UCLA and a doctor coming in, telling me that I was going to have my colon removed and that I was going to have to go to the Mayo Clinic and then all this procedure. And so, and this is the weird part. This is the woo-woo part, that he was standing against a wall and there was a nurse standing next to him, and it was the middle of the day, bright light. And there was a red aura around this entire doctor's body. And I just looked at him. I looked at the nurse, nothing, no light anywhere, just around him. And so I don't know what the red aura meant. I've never seen an aura before or after. People have told me different things, but just in my logical mind, I took it as a stop sign, like stop your life, stop this conversation, get out of this hospital and reevaluate. This is not where you should be going. And so I did. And I got out of there and I said, oh, yes, sir, I will make an appointment with the surgeon. Of course, I never did. And I went straight to alternative therapies and all kinds of different types of therapy, from craniosacral and polarity therapy and Rolfing and homeopathy and all kinds of things, just trying to find what was going on. Of course, psychotherapy, everything to find, because they knew there was a connection with stress, but
Yeah.
how do you get there? And of course, the stress wasn't just from the divorce. It was from childhood. It was years of storing anger into my gut. And so I was able to uncover that over time. It didn't happen overnight. And I think that's what a lot of people, when they have a gut illness, they wanted just the quick fix. And I get that. I did too. You want to get back to your life.
Yeah.
But if you don't get to that deep thing, you're going to be sticking a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. So I just kept working and working until I was able to get through that. And but part of what helped me get through that was art. And I decided to be honest with myself, and really, because at that point I was a commercial artist. I had reps in at that point I had reps in New York and Chicago and LA and San Francisco repping my work that was commercial work. It was photography based illustration, and I was painting to please once again. And so this work was just about being honest with myself and really painting brutally dark things about how I really felt. No pretty pictures here. And it was hard. It was hard to look at some of the things that were coming out of me on paper, but I did it and I faced it. And I just kept producing that stuff. And it just was very healing. Yeah. To me.
I can see that. Yeah. Brooke, my friend Brooke always say, it's like a filter, you're constantly having to create and clear that filter. And the more you do, the clearer it becomes. So, wow, that's amazing. I had goosebumps listening to you talk about that. So I'm so happy you healed and you're doing better and you're healthier.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's hard to imagine that ever happened, actually, now that years and years have gone by. And
you never mentioned, yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah. So I want people, if anyone's listening to this that has that, hang in there. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I also noticed you do plein air workshops for your students. Tell us more about that. I know for myself, painting outdoors is so relaxing and healing. And I'm sure your students really enjoy it, and to be around you and your energy.
You're sweet. I do enjoy it. I do a couple of workshops a year usually. Like this year I'm doing one, or next year I'm doing one in Gatlinburg, Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains. And then in the fall, I'll be doing one at Ghost Ranch out in New Mexico, where George O'Keeffe lived. And
so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wait, speaking of George O'Keeffe, though, I wanted to tell you, I did a little video on my Instagram thing where I burned my art too. She inspired me because she would burn her art all the time. She didn't want to die and have a bunch of paintings that she didn't feel like represented her. And so I came back, I was so inspired. I burned all these paintings, and oh man, people were, why are you burning that?
Oh, wow.
I know it's hard to understand, but anyway. But yeah, the workshops are great because not only it's so much more than just a painting class, or because I usually have about 12 artists, and I encourage bonding on my workshops. So I always try to rent something where we are together in a living, either, well, in Italy, when we go to Italy, or England, we've been in big villas or manor homes and things like that. So there's a lot of together time. We have meals, and then we have, I call it circle time after dinner, where we can talk about art related issues and anything anybody wants to talk about, from the business of art to art technique to how you feel about your art, whatever. And so we have these sessions, and by the end of it, and I do group texts, and so everybody's sharing on that for months afterwards. The friendships that are made are for a lifetime. So it's really great. It's just something very satisfying to me to do those workshops.
Oh, I love that. Well, if I ever visit Tennessee, and my husband wants to. Yeah.
And sometimes I do local Tennessee workshops too. I teach cold wax medium, which is
Mhm.
more for abstract
Yeah.
art, and then I also do more traditional plein air painting, which
Yeah.
is more representational with both acrylic and oil. So, and I'm also a golden educator.
Mhm.
So I, do a lot with acrylics as well. So,
What words of wisdom do you have for all the creative spirits out there?
oh gosh, words of wisdom.
Mhm.
The pressure's on. To follow your own voice. I think everyone's mark making, their strokes, their choice of colors and color mixing and line and texture and all the elements of design and principles of art are within you just naturally. We've all got the same toolbox. It's there. It's just a matter of accessing it. And but I do truly believe that it is like handwriting. It's unique and it's yours. And I would steer clear of any trends you might see in art magazines or in galleries. Just somehow get to that place, to that still small voice inside yourself, and do some journaling, whatever it takes to get to where you can find out what it is you want to say and how you want to say it, but be authentic to yourself, because otherwise, it's people will resonate when they feel that authenticity. They
Yeah,
will resonate with what you're doing. So that's what I would say is follow your voice.
absolutely. I love that. Thank you for that. And where can people find you and your work?
Well, I have a couple of galleries in Tennessee, Copper Fox Gallery, the District Gallery, and Chauvet Arts. And that's on my website. So my website would probably best way to find out about workshops. I also have a YouTube channel where I do free art instructional videos, and then my Instagram account, which is at McCampbell Art, and YouTube is McCampbell Art Studio, and my website is Rachael McCampbell. So .com. So all that.
Rachel, thank you for being here with me today. It was such a pleasure and honor to have you. And we were talking before, it feels like we already have known each other and have had tea and lunch together, being, online. Like you kind of, I don't know, it mixes things up sometimes with the whole online social media community. You're like, but I think I already know that I've been with them before. Like, no, never.
Funny. Kindred spirits. I think that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm honored to be here, and thank you for asking me. I
you.
really appreciate that, Sheryl. So sweet.
Absolutely.
Thank you.